Guys, this is Corey Goldsmith here, and I'm going to take you through a walkthrough of my track Niagara, which is out as part of the Niagara EP on Ride Recordings. So let's dig in. Cool. So here's the project. You can notice if you're an Ableton Live user that all these tracks are frozen because, a lot of CPU was used on this one. So where should we start? I guess with all tracks, we should start with the kick and bass. So the idea behind this track was to have I wanted to, the inspiration, first of all, Niagara. Obviously, Niagara Falls is a thing. Last summer, I made a road trip to Canada from here in Boston. It was about a 10-hour drive to Toronto. And I really wanted to use that drive to kind of reflect on my sound, my personality, what I could do musically that would sort of be me, you know? I've always been kind of into combining trance and techno. That has been what I've been after for a decade. But as you may or may not know, trance and techno as a hybrid is not really anything new these days. And it's being done all over the place. So really I wanted to try and see what I could do to kind of expand on that. So I was listening to Spotify on shuffle throughout the drive, kind of listening to all my different influences. And the main three that came up were, techno, obviously, and then psytrance and metal. And I really wanted to capture that. So actually, we're not going to start with the kick and bass. We're going to start with the intro, because that was very much an intentional decision to make it a track with an intro instead of like the typical DJ intro. And the reason behind that was because, that was kind of the metal and the psytrance part of things, is that, metal, or at least the metal I like to listen to and liked to listen to growing up, always had this sort of epicness feeling to it, right? That sort of vibe of just like an epic journey almost. And then psytrance obviously always has these kind of intros. So really wanted to dig into that. So yeah, let's take a look at this intro. So what you'll mainly see here is I have a lot of drones and a sub, etc., with a vocal chop underneath. So the drones sound something like this, and then there's also these horns. And then you have these horns as well. You'll notice on the horns there is some delay, and this latency is killing me. You'll note the latency because of mainly, and maybe I'll just, this RX declick I needed on the cymbals, and the vocals were kind of mashing in a way that caused like these little clicks here and there. And so even though it's a high latency plugin, it's something I throw on at the end to kind of take care of those clicks. But now as we go through the video, you're going to see the track marker, move before you hear the audio, and that's why. As well as Unmask, which is on this not horns group, which I like to be. I don't know. I kind of like to have fun with my channel and group names. One of my rules is if I make a typo, I don't fix it. I don't know if there's an example of that in this particular project, but you'll maybe notice it at some point. But like Z sub pad, that one's not particularly that funny, but typo with a Z, whatever. Like, I know what it means. But anyways, so on the Not Horns, I have this plugin that actually I worked quite substantially on developing it. Humble brag. And that is to get the pads out of the way of the horns, because those horns have this massive like, and I don't want to take away from that with the drones that are also in a similar frequency range. So you'll be able to see what's happening. That dip happening when the horns are playing. There's this ambience, so that's slowly starting to come in. I have Gatekeeper on there. Yeah, like everything's frozen, so it's hard to kind of go into things, but a lot of processing on this, and there's a filter going on top of it, which you see here. Eventually in the intro, it's gonna open up. And then, of course, we have, where are the vocals? Oh, in the cymbals and vocals bus I was talking about. So we have a couple of vocal layers here. This one. And then this one as well. And that's one hit. These are all being filtered at the beginning. And then when it gets into like that intro drop, it's more of using it as a loop. But what I like about the intro is how these vocal tracks kind of interact with each other. You'll hear it, you know. And so they're kind of like filling each other in. So you take all of that and those drones from before, and you get that intro. And then the drums are going to come in with a filtered kick and bass leading into it. You'll see as I play it. But one of the main things here is that the bass is going to filter into like this psytrance sort of intro. So let's hear that part. So yeah, let's talk about this intro. So we've got our kick and bass going. My chain for that is a little bit, you know, I mean, because these are frozen, it's kind of hard to show. I mean, there's a lot of things I did to my kick. And then there's a rumble, which is made out of a reverb tail, and that's unmasked to the kick. Has some filter automation. And then we have the bass. The bass with Neutron I matched to a psytrance bass. That's something we did with Neutron 4. I know this is like a track walkthrough and also an advertisement for my company, but we made it so that you could reference EQ profiles from various things. So what I normally do is I'll take the kick and bass from a track and reference it, and then I'll pull the kick out. I'll record it out of that bus so that it has this assistant EQ on. Maybe that's more or less of a fine detail, but it's still on the bass. There's 2 layers to the bass. So we got this one, and then a high layer, just to get that click. And then with the rumble under it, that's basically the kick and bass we're working with. There's that vocal I showed earlier, and then we've got some cymbal stuff going with this like little fill, like it's just like a random little fill in there. And then we've got some percussion. So this is a fun kind of trick, actually. Battery, which you see down here, that is a drum rack plugin from Native Instruments. And I just put an arpeggiator on there and kind of tweak which drums are going where to make it, kind of a loop in my, that I'd like, we have all these like kind of psytrance effect things. So you'll notice that I have this bend channel that's turned off. What I've done is I have this pitch bend, and there is this plugin by Unfiltered Audio called Biome that does some cool stuff. Maybe if I take the pitch bend off for a moment just to show you what I mean, like what it does without that pitch bend. So clear envelope. Let's hear what it sounds like. It sounds something like this. And then if we put the pitch bend back in, and basically I recorded that because sometimes, like with these sort of plugins that have these sort of time-based effects, sometimes they don't always recreate the same way. So I bounced it to audio and I kind of split it into a left and right, and then it sounds like this. And then I left like a delay tail over it, kind of recorded it separately. And then there's some other ones like this, if it will play, with some ping pong. This one was yes, that one. So I recorded that to audio as well. Yeah. So yeah, as you can see, a lot of different effects in there to kind of give that, again, that sort of psytrance feel to it that I wanted to have some inspiration from in there. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much what that part entails up into the break, which is pretty similar to the intro. So little bit of high pass automation going into the break. Break has a lot of the same stuff you had in the intro, and really the main thing that's different about the drop is what I call bongs, which sound, like this. It's these kind of melodic sort of percussion hits that kind of sound like bong. Hence why I call them bongs. And yeah, those had some delay automation going in, some I think I had I don't know, like a send on. Yeah, here we go. And then some filter automation as well, because of this bong high and try 2, which I guess was try 2 usually means that I tried to make something better. And since all of these channels are on, I'm assuming that I just deleted try 1. So anyways, sounds like this going into the drop. Yeah, so I mean, that's more or less the elements in this track. I mean, I left out some things like going over a snare roll and, some of my processing on some of the drums. I mean, having everything frozen doesn't make that super easy, but I mean, you can see my hats are pretty basic. Don't really use many plugins until I process the bus, which I have like Saturn and Pro Q on. Like my hat processing is pretty basic, but I group them all together into a cymbals bus, and that's what does the majority of my processing there. Although I guess I kind of do some things on shakers sometimes, like oh, maybe not here. Okay, well, never mind. Sometimes I use Neutron 4 on shakers because there's this cool plugin, or this cool preset. I mean, yeah. And then D-Click, I could kind of show you. I mean, this was sort of driving me crazy. This is output clicks only. And you can kind of hear these sort of clicks that I wanted to get rid of that were driving me insane. And yeah, and then the outro is just a groove. And going into it, yeah, I mean, what is there to say? Just a bunch of drones again, kind of similar to the intro and the break, and then it goes into like your groove section. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. So I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough, and let's get to the next track on the EP if you're curious about that one as well. For Let You Down, which is the B-side of the Niagara EP. It followed a similar sort of inspiration as far as style, with like the psytrance bass and, you know, those types of effects, but keeping the techno feel to it. And there's the reason it's called Let You Down is mainly because of the vocal, which I'll show you right now. Looks like this project can handle a little bit more CPU, hence not as many frozen tracks. So maybe we can dig into this one a little more. Here's the vocal. Don't want to let you down. Yeah, so on this intro, still a lot of, as I put in the dunnage. Okay, here's a good example of what I was talking about before with the naming. I don't know why I'm hovering on this point, but it's just something I do that's quirky and keeps me in the flow and gives me a little chuckle while I'm working. So this is supposed to say dronage. It says dunnage. Whether you find that funny or not is irrelevant because it gives me a chuckle. So keeps me in the mood. So there's a lot of drones here, and there's some strings, but those don't come in, I guess, until later. And there's this like creepy circus ARP. I call it circus ARP because it sounds like this. Just a really simple arpeggio, but it sounds metal AF, and I dig that. And so that's really what's driving this intro into the main like intro drop there, teasing some percussion before I take it all out. So let's hear what, that second part of the intro sounds like. Oh, there's also like this percussion thing. You'll hear that going into it. So yeah, let's listen to the second half of that intro. Yeah, so obviously we got into the intro drop there. The most noticeable thing in that is, there's some pings, there's that, but the siren with that ping pong delay, I think, is probably the most noticeable thing. Is it this one? Nope, that's a vocal. Where are you? Oh, big siren. That's what it is. Yes, that's just a bit of ping pong delay on something that would just be one without it. Lots of effects in here. Again, we've got like a gated vocal chop. So you'll notice this track I have that's called Clappity. That's what I always name my little like filler snare tracks, like or or cha 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 ticka ticka, which is I think this one. Yeah, that's a clap. So I guess we can go over my kick and bass again. I mean, we got a kick, a rumble, a reverse kick for when things take a break, and low, which is what I put my like bass into, right? Just serum, 2 layers of, oh, well, one's an ana layer and the other one's serum. And then the kick, I've done a similar thing as I was talking about in Niagara, where I have a neutron preset. No, maybe I don't. Yes, I do. I have a neutron like referencing thing, and then I record the kick out. The reason I record the kick out versus just like leaving it in that bus is there's this thing called a punch compressor in neutron, and it bases your dynamics off of something, but like there's some learning time there, like some roll-in time, if you will. And basically, I don't want any of my kicks to be higher or lower, so I record it out into its own channel and just use the same kick everywhere so that it's all exactly the same. And that's why there's so many kicks here, which I probably should have just like combined into one clip, but you know what, whatever works, right? So that's why a kick doesn't really have much processing on it besides like some last little bit of EQing, because I'd already did all the processing before recording it to its separate audio. Same thing with the rumble. So the other like noticeable thing in this track, I feel like the stuff that stands out the most is this loop. So, oh no, that's the one I was, lead percussion. That's what I called it, lead perk. So you got this stuff going on. So basically, you have one thing, that little beep. And then you have the lower one. It's like kind of like a wood block with some transient shaping, some limiting, some exciting, like some saturation type stuff, some delay. And then in the middle of it with the ping, you have like a 30-second note roll. So it's like that little. And that's just to kind of keep it interesting throughout, you know? So it doesn't get too boring for y'all. Give it a little bit of juice every once in a while to kind of mix things up. Yeah, notice that there too. There's like a little bit of, oops, wrong thing. So there's a little bit of a reverb raise on those cymbals going into the next spot, just to, once again, kind of mix it up a little bit with the transition. So. Yeah, so that's kind of that intro drop for you. The break is, again, kind of similar to the intro. Just a little bit more percussion than what was going on in Niagara. And then, like, this ping kind of does some, you can see what all these automation lanes, like, it does something going into the drop. This sort of ping. Which was the following. and then it does a little bit of like feedback here with a filter automation and a send. And that kind of leads up into the drop, which is not that different from the intro drop, to be totally honest. But I mean, that's kind of the techno influence there. You don't want to make this big, like, I mean, you want the drop to be big, but you don't want it to kind of, you still want to keep it dark, I guess is the way to put it. So let's have a listen to this build into the drop. It would help if I unsoloed. There was one thing pointing out there that's easy. It's this white noise hit, right? Really basic. You can just use operator. Nice. You can just use operator out of Ableton. I mean, any DAW has a white noise generator. Just use it and then cut off some of the lows, add some delay or reverb for just so it doesn't sound so harsh, and then you get it. And then there's all these little effects that I'm throwing in, which maybe we can go over a few of them. Effect 10, is that the one I'm thinking of? That one's cool. Some of these I just froze and flattened and, you know, re-recorded, similar to like what we did in Niagara. And there's this. I like that one. And then there is this one. All of these were mostly created with Massive X, Native Instruments. Shout to those guys and gals over in Berlin who I visit quite frequently. All solid people. Also, what's this one? Yeah, your typical psytrance sort of thing. So anyway, I mean, this is all basically what I did. I mean, what's this guy? Oh yeah, I did some vocal chop there and then bounced it out. Yeah, I mean, it's all kind of a similar thing. I haven't worked on these projects in ages, so I'm just now kind of remembering. I love this vocal gate. That's just turning on a gate of the main vocal, and I put it in a separate track. That's the send. But yeah, that's pretty much let you down. There's all these sort of processing things. Maybe I'll save for another video to dive deeper in. A lot of unmask. I love this plugin, and I'm not just saying that because I developed it, but with a great team. But just that it's so useful. I mean, like this ARP, the circus ARP and the vocal. Let's find a part where they're going together. I think it only happens at the beginning. Yeah, here. So if I look at that. Yeah, just getting that circus ARP out of the way for the vocals, which are obviously the kind of most prominent thing that you want, or you want to be the most prominent. Vocals usually take that role. And yeah, I mean, this track was just basically like get the kick and bass going and then throw some call and response and some cool percussion and effects elements and have a go with it and keep the groove going strong. And that's, I think, what happened. And you'll have to tell me if I succeeded. Might be one more cool thing to point out is that the ride cymbal has like an auto pan on it, so it's sort of going left to right, you know, just right there. It can be a cool thing. I try not to do it in every track because I do love it a bit much, but anyways. You can see the shakers are kind of getting out of the way for the bass here. In retrospect, I might have gone a little overboard with that because they kind of get a little lost, but hey, it works live, so, and I like listening to this tune still after making it, so I think it worked out. So anyways, that was a quick, somewhat quick run through of Niagara and Let You Down, which make up the Niagara EP. And I really hope you like the EP. Let me know if you do. There will probably be a link to the EP around this video somewhere, so you should be able to listen to it on all your favorite streaming platforms or buy a copy from Beatport or Apple Music or wherever you like to purchase music or stream it. So thanks a ton for the support. Thank you to Ride Recordings and Mayon. Yeah, hope you enjoyed this video and hope to do something like this again soon. So yeah, thanks for watching and go dogs.